Famines are a tragedy of nature, and India, just like rest of the world, had plenty of them long before the British arrived. So what made the colonial era famines so unique?
Staying with India, between 15 and 29 million Indians died of starvation in British-induced famines. The most famous example, of course, was the Great Bengal Famine during the Second World War.
And what it means when your doctor tells you that a South Asian is clinically at risk of diabetes at a BMI of 25, whereas a white is not considered to be at risk until they cross 30. Historians say that Indians had to endure 31 major famines during the 190 years of British colonial rule, whereas 2000 years prior to that, we suffered only from 17 of them. Famines, which are localized to small pockets of South Asia, became so widespread because of British policies that they now affected the whole South Asian subcontinent. The British industrialization was strongly dependent on the deindustrialization of India, not only for resources but also because India was a strong competitor of Britain in the business industry. By 1896, the damage done to the Indian textile industry was so absolute that the once leading producer of textiles in the world now produced only 8% of the cloth consumed domestically. While the death toll was rising to 85 million, the Economist newspaper attacked British Administrator Ronald Ross for importing rice to feed the starving people of India, saying that this was damaging the economy of Britain. In the historical Bengal famine, 1 out of every 3 people died because of starvation. Because there was such intense selection pressure, the bodies adapted by constraining their metabolic capacity through epigenetics. So epigenetics work through chemical markers such as DNA methylation, which influence how certain genes are expressed. And they function as metabolic switches which mask and unmask specific genes. Such metabolic switches turn on and off when exposed to harsh environment, such as the programming of a fetus to conserve energy when the mother suffers from undernutrition. But the insulin resistant switch got stuck in starvation adapted individuals and eventually got passed down to future generations. So gradually our bodies started losing the sensitivity to insulin, which normally signaled our body to use up the glucose present in our blood through our organs and muscles. Now, since that you are insulin resistant, this same glucose can be used up by your brain, which is obviously an essential organ for survival and doesn't require insulin for the uptake of glucose. This theory is known as the selfish brain hypothesis. It is also evident by the high levels of insulin found in the umbilical cord blood of newborns who are born in deprived conditions. Our bodies started reducing muscle because it was metabolically expensive and started hoarding fat because not only it was metabolically inert but it also acted as a storage safe house. When this already constrained metabolic capacity is overloaded with a high metabolic load, which can be in terms of high calorie diet combined with a sedentary lifestyle giving you the high blood glucose levels, your insulin reserves start getting exhausted and you suffer from diabetes, as your body cannot produce enough insulin to counter the high glucose load while itself suffering from insulin resistance. As famines favored short-term fat storage at the expense of long-term fat storage, many South Asians suffer from skinny fat obesity or normal weight obesity. Most of this short-term fat comes from visceral fat, the harmful inflammatory fat around our internal organs. Hence, a South Asian can be unhealthy even at underweight or normal weight BMI levels because of less muscle mass and higher body fat levels, most of which is concentrated around the abdomen. Earlier, BMI cutoffs were largely dependent on European population data, and the same was used for South Asians. It was only when hundreds of research articles like the YY paradox, the Masala study, and the confession of a thin-fat Indian showed that South Asians store fat differently, it was only then did WHO and International Diabetes Federation establish separate cutoffs for South Asians. It seems funny that now there are even more research articles like the Asia's biggest problem, which depict BMI and weight as systems failing in practice, but that might become too much to cover in this video. So if you are interested, you can watch my related video here.